If you're wondering how I clicked this classic shot of a jackal and you'd like to click similar pictures, then I'll show you how in this video. What makes this picture even more special for me is that I had to work very hard for it. I discovered this jackal hideout after 3 whole weeks of scouting and waiting for them for 5 whole days. Can you guess where I clicked this picture? It was in a bird sanctuary. Can you believe it? Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary in Rajasthan, India is a famous haven for birds with more than 370 species spotted in the park. But did you know that other fascinating creatures coexist with these birds? Among the diverse wildlife residing within this bird sanctuary are jackals, which share their habitat with hyenas, wild boar, and deer. Meeting jackals in Bharatpur happens a lot, especially in the winter during their mating season. But you see, the tricky bit was this. Every time I raised my camera to my eye to click a picture, they would disappear into the bushes. It was like a game of hide and seek. So I had to find a place where the jackals were almost certain to appear, where I could sit on the ground and click them at eye level without disturbing them, completely obscured from their view. But where? Bharatpur is a big sanctuary with lots of trails. You can get a map from the shop near the ticket counter to help you find your way around. Since jackals are less likely to be near water bodies, I focused on what locals call the dry areas. Here, I observed birds like prenias and shrikes hopping from twig to twig searching for insects. After about 3 weeks of searching, I found my spot, and it seemed to be paying off. Finally, I got some natural photos of jackals without them even knowing. This spot was almost 12 kilometers from the main entrance. To get there, I cycled around 8 kilometers and walked the remaining 4. The last stretch of the track was rough and filled with thorns, which made it unsuitable for cycling as it could puncture my tire. Adding to the challenges was the foggy weather in January, which often persisted until the afternoon. But I'd wait there in the fog, spending nearly 6 hours a day sitting on the forest floor with my feet in the lotus position, waiting for the perfect photograph. I focused on my breath and tried to meditate on the sounds of the forest, but occasionally I'd get bored and turn to my phone for some stimulation. From time to time, the jackals would appear, but I wasn't too happy with the way the pictures turned out. The strong afternoon light created harsh highlights, and the jackals were often way too far away. I had to actually leave my position at around 5:30 to get to a place where there were more people before it got too dark, because very few people come to this area of the park. Even after 4 days of cycling, walking, and patiently waiting on the forest floor, I had no pictures to show for my efforts. You might have discovered this video through my book, Wildlife Photography Explained. In my book, I explore ways to develop patience and explore techniques to help you stay focused. Despite 4 days of no results to show, I persevered. On this particular day, I saw absolutely no birds or wildlife throughout the day, and I was quite disheartened. When there were just about 6 minutes to go, I saw something walking towards me. So I looked through my viewfinder, and it first appeared as though it was a black dog emerging from the shadows. But lo and behold, it was a jackal, and it positioned itself just at the right position with respect to the light and distance from the background. Now, let me tell you about my camera settings. My primary intention is always to make large size prints of my pictures, and for that reason, I'm hesitant to increase my ISO beyond 400 to prevent digital noise. My cameras take decent pictures even at 800 ISO, but using a lower ISO value results in better color reproduction. I click all my pictures in the manual mode without leaving any creative decision to the camera. This helps me to avoid unpleasant surprises like blurry pictures because of slower shutter speeds or motion blur if the subject is in motion. Despite having a widest aperture of 5.6 on this lens, I chose to click this image at 6.3 to get that little extra depth of field on the jackal's body. However, the difference between 5.6 and 6.3 on a lens like this is hardly anything. If I had clicked at f8, I would have had more edge to edge, more sharpness on the jackal's body. But I wanted to have that background as out of focus as possible to isolate the jackal from its surroundings. Notice the background blur? It's because the jackal is far from the background. The greater the distance between the focus plane and the background, the blurrier the background looks. This is a hyena from Chambal, clicked with the same lens at the same aperture, 6.3. But notice how the textures of the background rocks stand out more here as they are closer to the hyena, which is the plane of focus, compared to the trees behind the jackal. I clicked this wolf at 5.6. The background is so out of focus that it appears as though I clicked with a much wider aperture, like 2.8. In my book, I show pictures of a cormorant and a redstart to explain more about depth of field. I'm sharing them here so that you can see how the background has blurred out completely because I photographed the birds at their eye level. When we click pictures of birds and animals at their eye level, it makes the area that's clear in the photo, which is called depth of field, quite small. If we make the background really blurry, it helps us focus on the animal without anything else in the frame distracting us from our main subject. But you have to be extra careful to ensure that the animal's eyes are sharp, otherwise the picture won't look good. I'm Girish Menon and I'm the author of Wildlife Photography Explained, Practical Tips from India's Jungles. I wrote this book with a clear goal in mind, to show you that you don't need long hours of planning or many days off work to enjoy wildlife. Even a couple of days out in nature will bring you pure joy. Immerse yourself in breathtaking visuals and clear instructions to click pictures of your own. If you haven't got your copy yet, show your support by grabbing it now. The purchase link is waiting for you in the video description below.